Yeah, let's talk about useRef. There are instances when you're building your React application where you don't need re-renders to happen for the action that you want to carry out to happen. So let's say, for example, whenever I type into this input box and the length of characters that I've typed into here, including the spaces, is 8 characters long or more, I want to be able to automatically focus on this input. That's not really something that React can handle for you inside of its shadow DOM. That needs to happen directly inside of the document object model. And that's kind of like where useRef comes in. You use useRef, no pun intended, you use useRef anytime you need to carry out an action in the DOM that you don't need React to re-render that particular action. So we'll go ahead and implement this right now. The first thing I need to do is create some form of reference to this particular input, and I will just come over here and say ref equals age input, right? Then I'm going to come over here and declare this variable and say age input, and I'm going to assign it to useRef, right? And I need to import useRef from React, of course. You need to pass some form of default value. For this, I'm just going to do null. Now, I can come over here and now begin to implement the logic and say const on change, catch the event, and say const input value equals e.target.value. I can then make my check here and say if input value dot length is greater than or equals to 8, then what I want to do is go ahead and focus on the age inputs. Focus, save it up, and let's see if in fact this is going to work. And I'll come over here and say web boss, and you see that this is not working. And the reason for that is because most things in React are not mutable. That is, things don't just change, right? And that's the reason why you have something like set state in order to be able to like track, and React is able to check that, oh, a particular state is changing, then I should go ahead and render this piece of UI. So the same thing kind of applies to useRef. You cannot directly change a variable, right? What you have to do is change the current property on that useRef exposes to your ref, right? So in this case, you have age input. Age input now has a property known as current. That current value is what you can now change or modify. So in this case, what we want to do is focus on that particular current value. And the way it works is just come over here and say age input.current.focus, save it up, come back here. If I delete this now, and you see that this gets focused automatically, that's because the length of characters in here is greater than 8, obviously. Right now, there's a mistake that I've made in the past while working with useRef, which is thinking that I could come over here and say age input current equals, let's say, age input dot current, right? This is a fatal mistake, and I'm going to tell you the reason why that is so. So I'm going to come over here, comment this guy out, then come over here, age input current, and just come over here and say age input current, save it up, and let me attempt to clear this guy out and do web boss. That is not accurate. I'm going to refresh this, come over here and say web boss, and you can see that it is no longer getting focused. And the reason for that is when this component first renders, the value for our current value is null. What that means is that age input current is essentially null, and what I'm basically calling here is saying null dot focus. And of course, there is no focus method on null. That's why that is not working. So anytime you are making use of ref, please ensure that you are calling current and whatsoever action that you want to carry out on current. So yeah, and that's pretty much it about useRef. Now let's talk about forward ref.